Hi, Arrow.
How are you doing, Umkari?
I am doing well. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. Your book is coming out at such a perfect time because it was just a couple of weeks ago that the president said that the end of democracy is not at the end of a gun, it's in the silence. And oh my God, your book is saying, don't be silent. Don't be silent.
Yeah, exactly. The most important thing I think that any of us can do in making change in any arena that we're making change in is to use our voices. And that doesn't mean to necessarily get out and be on a protest line or anything like that, but to use our voices in whatever way works for us. And for some of us, that's writing a letter. For some of us, it's talking to a friend and having a serious conversation about the issue. For some of us, it is going to a protest. But for others, it may be organizing a food drive at our local school for unhoused people in our community. Using your voice in any way that you can is so important right now because we are so divided, and at such a critical juncture, we need to start being able to connect with people across the lines that separate us.
You're so right about that, and especially when it comes to communications, because one of the things that I've tried to do with people of homelessness is that I want them to share with me their stories of survival, because you don't know what's going to happen in this country. But if they can trust me to hear their story, their journey, that's community. Now we have something. We have a relationship.
Exactly. And community is so important. And I think also our understanding of community needs to expand a little bit. You know, it's not just our families or the people that we're in school with or the people right around us. I think our understanding of community needs to expand to include people for whom we have empathy. Mm-hmm. So it might be the unhoused person. It might be the mother who's struggling because she's a single mom and just navigating kids in a job is a full-time job by itself, plus all of the strains that go with being a single parent. I mean, it doesn't have to be people who are just like us. And in fact, it shouldn't be. I feel like if we're only talking with people who are just like us, who think exactly like us, we're not talking about community, we're talking about a cult. And community is broader and diverse, and sometimes we don't agree with one another, and that's fine, but we can still keep talking.
We've always heard that the squeaky wheel gets the attention, and it's one of those things where it's like, I hear the squeaky wheel, I walk away from it. Maybe it's time to start listening to the real source of energy that the squeaky wheel has.
I think 3 of the most powerful words we can say are, tell me more.
Yes.
If we say, tell me more, and we sincerely want to hear what someone has to say, and I'm not talking about hate speech, because really we don't need to listen to that, mm-hmm. but I'm talking about people's legitimate concerns, then even if we don't agree with their solution, we understand why they feel the way they do, and we understand that maybe there is a shared path that we can find to solving the problems that we agree are actual problems, rather than just turning away and saying, I can't be in this conversation, it's going to be too uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. We need to be willing to be a little uncomfortable for the greater good.
When it comes to microactivism, are there a lot of people that don't realize they're doing it, but they are?
Yeah, there really are. And actually, one of the reasons I wrote the book Microactivism is because I wanted people to understand that activism doesn't just look one way. It doesn't just look like standing on a stage. It also looks like being the person who makes sure that there is coffee in the break room where you're organizing the fund drive for the local library. It also looks like being the person who makes the maps so that people know how to get to an event. It also looks like being the person who gets the signatures on a ballot for a local candidate. It can look any number of ways. It can even be the person who spends their time in the local community garden helping to feed people healthy food who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it.
So what the picture that I'm getting nowadays of the microactivist is the one that it doesn't have to look like a hippie. It doesn't have to look like you're a grunge person. There's no real identity except for self, which then grows into, a group of people. But I mean, we can all be what we need to be and still have a voice.
Absolutely. I am not a hippie, and I shower on the regular, and I consider myself to be an activist. But there have been so many times in my life where my activism was tiny. I mean, my first activist action was as an 8-year-old trick-or-treating for UNICEF.
Oh, wow.
And it's gone from there, and some of the things I do are more forward facing, but most of the work I do is actually so far behind the scenes that no one would ever know about it. Yeah. And there's a whole range. The point isn't to do it so that it looks good. The point is to do the thing that calls to your heart, that really is asking you to fix a problem that you see. That is the point of activism, is to address the challenges that we're facing in this world.
Would you say that the book is inspiring in the way of, okay, here's a goal, now make a choice. Your choice, let's activate it.
Yeah, thank you. I really like that, because that is actually my hope for the book, is that people don't look at it and say, oh, it has to be this particular formula, this particular way. No, I can do it my way. And that's the point, is if we make activism something that looks one way, and if it's not like this, then it's wrong, no one's going to do that. No one can sustain that. The point is to find the thing that you can do consistently, that you enjoy doing, that satisfies that need that you see needs to be filled. That's the point. So I really feel like that's what we want to be focusing on, is having people understand that there's not one way of doing activism, there's their way of doing activism.
In helping to teach ourselves as well as those around us to understand what micro activism is, does it start with knowing who is going to receive it? In other words, at a grocery store, let's say, it's, so many times people are on the register, but they don't know who is there, and they don't realize who the customers are or who the guests are.
Huh.
And
that's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because it's like in radio. We go to the public so that I know who my listeners are.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that it matters that you know who, because sometimes when we think we know who, what we know is the appearance of the who.
Right.
We don't know the story behind the who. So I think that it's more important to just recognize that we're doing this for other humans. Yep. We're doing this for other living beings, and to connect to the humanity, to connect to the fact that what we're doing is to improve life for everyone as best we can in our own way. And that it's not our specific action that's going to fix everything, but it's the collective actions of all of us that will make things better for everyone. Because sometimes we'll have an idea about who someone is, and then we hear their story and we realize we were entirely wrong.
Yeah. Wow. And listeners need to understand that this conversation, no one yelled at each other. We didn't call each other names. We didn't do anything, but we had a real honest to God conversation.
I agree. As I said, tell me more. That's 3 most powerful words.
I love that. I got to put that on a T-shirt. Oh, my God. Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for talking about my book, Microactivism, how you can make a difference in the world without a bullhorn. I really appreciate it.
You be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. I'll try.